Out. Hello then, and welcome to another episode of Who Are Concord Rangers. And today I'm delighted to be joined by two people who maybe are the first people that everyone thinks of when you mention Concord Rangers. They are, of course, Danny and Nicky Cowley, who are currently down at Portsmouth. Gentlemen, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Kian. We are a bit tired. We had a late night last night off the back of a travel home from Accrington Stanley, but no, we're loving life.
All right, then we'll jump straight in with the first question, and everyone's been asked the same thing. But if you were going to kind of think back to your time at the Beachboys, is what would be kind of your most memorable games, either the ones you played in or as a management team?
I think probably for both of us, it has to be the first season, beating Enfield last game of the season, just for the importance of that game for the club at that time. It had numerous times in its history where it had tried to get out of the Essex Senior League. So to achieve that in our first year together was just such an important game. And
game at Barkingside down with Hillsey scoring.
I know.
That win was massive, was it? They'd just actually sort of scored probably a goal that should have counted from a long throw, and it didn't get given. And it I don't know, it just seemed the football gods were with us that day. And Daniel popped up as he does and scored a really important goal. And we had a great night after it, didn't we?
Yeah, I always think that was a bit of a sliding doors moment in our careers, actually, because I always wonder what would happen if that goal that gets disallowed is given, and then we're 1-0 down on what was a dust ball of a pitch, really difficult pitch, gets a really competitive Barkingside team, and then we literally get from the free kick, go straight up the other end, and like you said, Hillsey scored. So that was definitely a defining moment. And then
there was 3 teams, wasn't there? There's 3 teams on that day that were trying to. And Enfield was sort of watching. They were standing there in the stadium, and I remember actually feeling really nervous in the game.
I did as well.
To get promoted because we had such a good spirit and we've made such a good connection as well. With
how do the nerves of that game compare to the likes of playing at the Emirates and Wembley with Lincoln and stuff like that?
You know what? I think the same, no different for us. Absolutely no different. I wanted to win as much in the Essex Senior League as I did in the quarterfinal of the FA Cup or in the Championship at Huddersfield or now at Portsmouth. So no different. I always know the big games, normally your nerves subside as the game kicks off. But in the really big games, sometimes you carry the nerves through the game. And, you know, the other games for me would obviously be Enfield, Enfield Town, when we got promoted out of Ryman 1, which was a huge achievement for the club at the time. And then obviously Lowestoft. That's my great. That I'd still say in my career, 14 years as a manager, that would be right up there. The feeling of the final whistle. I can always hear mum's scream in the background, Nick. Do you remember when you're watching that game back? Yeah. And we get 9 minutes of injury time. And when has there ever been 9 minutes of injury time? But I can really remember they had a free kick deep. They kicked it and the referee blew his whistle. And that moment, that will live with me forever.
It was there's clips of the game on YouTube, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And I remember at the end of the match, because there was a lot of supporters there on the day, but mostly Lowestoft supporters or neutral supporters just coming to watch the playoff final. And when that full-time whistle went, it was without doubt the best feeling when it was just. And then again, like when we'd had success in the past, you know, we were all so close by that point because we'd been with each other quite a long time. And anyone that had come in had really bought into the Concord way of doing things and the spirit and the DNA of the club. And just our journey back on the coach, we were just singing songs and just having a brilliant time, and went back to the club. And as he always does, put on some drinks for us. And it was just brilliant. It's just like the best memories that you could have.
Yeah. There was one other thing about that Lowestoft game. Tony Stokes mentioned that in the warm-up they had a singer or something like that, and she was absolutely horrific. Do you guys remember this notorious singer?
Yeah, no, I can remember. I can remember. Yeah, I can remember before the game and after the game. During the game, I remember there being maybe 3,500 Lowestoft supporters, and we just had our really small but noisy contingent of Concord Rangers supporters. And I remember saying in the team talk before that if we can silence the crowd, and that would be like 10,000 people singing for us. And yeah, we managed to do that. And that group were just incredible. You know, we'd obviously had history against Lowestoft because in our first season we played them in the Vars, in the latter rounds of the FA Vars, and lost narrowly. And they were a big club at those levels, and we'd often taken big beatings from them, Nick, hadn't we? We'd always kind of played them at difficult times in our season when we weren't quite fit, and we didn't have a fit or our full squad to pick from. So I believe we were 18-1 down on aggregate at Lowestoft going into that game. So we to win now was just an incredible achievement for that team and for the club. And yeah, that's right up there with my best memories.
It's funny, really, against Lowestoft that we had such that high moment, but probably the biggest low as well when we did well in the FA Vars and unfortunately lost, didn't we, against them? At Concord, and that was the closest we'd ever got to trying to get to Wembley. So at that time, so for Concord to then go and achieve that in the trophy is just incredible. We're so proud and have continued to support. And I think Ants often said to Dan and myself that he always looks for our results straight after games, but likewise the first result we always look for is a result of Concord Rangers.
It's not just Ant. We all look out for your results.
Yeah,
all of us are doing it. All of flash scores. We've all got the Portsmouth games coming through at the minute. All right then, moving on. And this will be quite, I suppose, a different one to all the other kind of interviews I've done, because when I mention influential people, the two names that have always come up, or three names, have been Scopesy and then they've been you two. So if you were going to kind of say the most influential people or most important people that you've managed, played with, or have been a part of the club whilst you were at Concord, who would they be and why?
Well, I think if you start at the top of the club and work your way down, you'd definitely say Ant. Without Ant, none of it would have been possible. And he had a vision for the club and then backed that vision. So without a doubt, he drove our energy every day. And he when you're the manager and he's the chairman, he don't give you loads of praise. He's not one of these that is phoning you up, patting you on the back. He's pretty he's pretty demanding, but in his own way, he gets the best out of you, and you want to do well for him and obviously for the family. People like Jack and obviously Ant's dad. Then you have Chris Crary and Jane was just such a huge part for us because she was like the glue. She just glued it all together because we had some wayward staff. Would that be the best way to describe Dave Chambers and Gary Ewers? And so they were great guys, brilliant for the spirit of the group and really important, actually. I'd go up there to say some of our most important signings, but definitely Jane used to glue it all together and make sure that the guys in those positions were doing their jobs properly. So definitely, obviously Danny Scopes, none of it would have been possible without Dan. And we enjoyed a great relationship, a brilliant relationship, and still do to this day. And I'm so proud of him and what he's gone on to achieve. And particularly the path that he's taken with it all. Because obviously when I first came in, he was playing still. So he was player manager. And as Nicky and I know, it's hard enough just to be a manager, let alone play and manage at the same time. So no, just remarkable. And so humble, Dan. Always putting everyone before himself, and just a brilliant person. And actually typifies the club really, and the spirit, the DNA of the club. Player-wise, we had some important players. I'm just really cautious of not missing anyone out. But if I go back, I just think of John Easterfords, the Kevin Mulleys, going back to the Essex Senior League, obviously Nick. I think we had people like Danny Hazeldine in the early part, Hillsey, who was just had an incredible goal record. But what he gave on the pitch, and I think 57 goals, he gave even more off the pitch. And that's pretty incredible, isn't it, when you consider someone scoring 57 goals. But he was just brilliant fun. And Dan's one of these guys, Danny Hill, one of these guys that you hear him before you see him. And he makes the place 10, 15, 20% better just for him being there, and just brings joy and happiness and fun, which I think is really important to any dressing room. Begsy in the first year, and then obviously in the Ryman 1 years, you'd think about people like Skelts. There's going to be loads of names I forget here of really important people. We had Lowell Taylor, obviously, who made a significant difference to us and the quality of us at the top end of the pitch. And it's been brilliant to see what he's gone on to achieve. And then we went in and we signed Harry Elms, James Elms, Mark Sontag, boys like this, Kingy, Steve King, who was just Kingy. I tried to sign, I don't know however many times. I think just by the end of it, he just got bored of me badgering him on the phone. I just wore him down. And I did tell him I was going to do that. And eventually we managed to sign him, and just, again, incredible competitor, unbelievable in both boxes. And a huge part of our success. And then we evolved really to Ben Greenhay, Matt Fry, Leon Gordon, and that Ryman Premier team that won at Lowestoft, James White. I mean, Nicky and James were an unbelievable partnership for us that season in the middle of midfield. We had John Easterford, Matt Fry, Kingy. We managed to sign Ben Greenhay on transfer deadline day, Nick. Do you remember I phoned you and I said, I've got one. I think that could be the difference for us. And at the time, you've got to remember that year, what was so incredible, we lost Harry Elms, who was just huge for us. Absolutely huge. Even Stokesy, I mean, Tony just gave us that little bit of je ne sais quoi, really, and just the quality at the top end of the pitch. And we had him, Harry, and we had Jason Hallett. And Jason was such a good player for the level and would have been playing in most teams. And we had three really good forwards with a limited budget at that level, but three really good forwards at the level. And I can remember Jason Hallett scoring 6 one game and me leaving him out. And then Stokesy scored a hat-trick against Met Police in the league. We then had another cup game on the Tuesday and he scored 7, Jason Hallett. And I think I left him out again. But he, you know what, just a brilliant attitude. Really team orientated. And when Harry Elms broke his leg, which was such a huge loss to everybody, really, Jason come in and we were able to finish the job. And Ben Greenhay come in at that time and just we had real hard work and endeavour on the right hand side with Leon Gordon, and then we had Ben, who just gave us a little bit of top end quality, and it was a really nice balance to the team. And
now I'm going to interview Ben after you two. I've got to nip up to Dartford Football Club because obviously where he works now. And he said to me last night when I said I'm doing you two before him, he said, say hello. And he said, I was probably their best signing. Is there any truth to those rumours?
Yeah, he was our Cristiano Ronaldo. That was it. He was our Cristiano Ronaldo.
He's been nicknamed as Ryland Clark at Tunbridge last season because of how much he looks after himself, I think.
When you think of it though, Dan, is that when you first arrive at Concord, and this is for me what the club are brilliant at doing, is you get a real feeling straight away, like for Albert as well, obviously, formed the club. And the feeling that you get is that the family, find a way of really connecting you to the club and the journey that it's been on. And there's some photographs in and around the club of where it's come from. And if you take all that in as a player, you really start to understand the sort of special DNA that the club has. And there's not lots and lots of people involved at Concord, but there's so many people that work so hard and put in so many selfless hours as well to make it a good environment to play in and enjoyable for the players.
Yeah, people like Cliff Larkin, Steve Larkin, Toby.
Yeah, exactly. And especially for Danny and myself, we're like really family orientated people as well. It's like we found that as a great fit for us because we love like our mum and dad come to the game and support us. And I think that where we all had really strong family values, that was a massive part of the success that we had, and the feeling of just looking after each other really and accepting each other for your not so good things, but then also appreciating the qualities that you all had as well. And I think Dan touched on it. It's just what I miss the most is the sense of humour and the fun and the enjoyment from all of those people, all those different quirky personalities that just made it so good.
You've mentioned that DNA and kind of family oriented. I've only been part of the club now for nearly a year, and I get exactly what you mean. It's a completely different kind of football club to anywhere else that I've been. What do you think then makes up that Concord DNA and what makes it so special?
just family, really. I think Nicky summed it up perfectly. It's just, it's hard. It's hard to put into words, really. It's such a unique club. So we were so out there. Like a lot of clubs would misunderstand us, that we would sing in the dressing room. We had no supporters, really, not until we got to the Conference South, and then the fan base grew a little bit. But we had very little support, and we would sing for ourselves because no one else would. And I think sometimes the opponent thought that was disrespectful, and it never was. It was just the fact that was us and that was our way. And it was, if we won, we wanted to celebrate our wins. And it was very unique to us. But no, just... a
lot of it's around respect as well, really. Like somebody like Jane, who worked behind the scenes at Concord, like for us, was just so important. And even though she wasn't a player on the pitch, everything that she did helped us perform really well and feel like a family together. And when you all eat together and you share time with each other after matches, and you're so for each other, it's really powerful. And that sort of leads into your performance on the pitch. So when you've got that moment where you think, right, I've got to sprint recover here and try and get back for the team, you're willing to put your foot on the gas and go that little bit harder because you really care for the people that you're doing it for. And you're not even thinking about like money or anything else like that, which I know some people focus on more, whether it's professional or semi-professional. But for us, it was just that intrinsic feeling of wanting to do it for each other, really. And you know, that Danny and Scopes as well initially, and then like Glenn, Dan, who you work with as well, were actually fantastic for us as players in setting up like a professional environment. Because you know, you want to be the most professional, semi-professional club that you possibly can, so you can try and get the competitive edge over the people that you're playing against. And we always felt as though we were, as players, well prepared for the opposition. And this was before we had loads of video analysis or anything else, but Dan and the people that he worked with would put so much time into finding out about the opposition he was playing against. And you'd always feel like he was going onto the pitch with that little advantage, and as though that they'd really put a lot of effort in. And when you see other people trying really hard, then naturally you want to follow and do that yourself.
I've heard a lot of stories from Jane the last few weeks when I've been doing this series about kind of the era when you guys were in charge. And one that stuck with me was, I think, Dan, that you used to take or borrow money from Nicky's paycheck because you'd promised goal bonuses to other players, and you used to borrow it from Nick and then say, "Oh, sorry, mate, there's not enough money for you," or something like that. Is that right? Have I got the story right?
Yeah, I think so. I used to do my money first. I'd put my money back in, and then once I'd spent all that, I used to take it out of Nicky's. But I think he might have started on, when we were in the Essex Senior League, he was very sort of in that division. I think maybe he was on £100 a week, and I think he scored 27 goals as our captain and got us promoted, and then started the next season in the higher division on less money, which is kind of, it was a brother deal. But yeah, that was what it was. It was never the money for us. It was always wanting to win. And I think for us in Concord, it was like, it always felt it was an underdog story, and it was us against the world, and that's what we used to try to create. And we had some brilliant people, like some just like Nicky just alluded to. Really, it actually makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up when I think back to the memories, and like Dave Chambers and Gary Ewers, and just great characters, all different people from all different walks of life, but we come together, and like Nicky said, there was like a sense of belonging. We all felt like we were part of the family.
That's so powerful, because when anyone else joins, they come in and they get a sense of that commitment and the culture straight away, and then they either fit into it or it's not for them, and then they end up moving and going somewhere else. But what happens is you end up shaping a group and getting your players together that are all like-minded and are all thinking the same, and that's the same as the people off the pitch as well. And that's what can be powerful when you want to get some success.
All right, then. Moving on, before we get to kind of the last two questions, is you guys have mentioned Scopesy a lot in the last kind of 10 minutes or so. And I've certainly noticed this year he's very modest when it comes to games and stuff like that. And obviously, this is for him, is kind of the biggest game of his career. And when we found out the date, one of the interviews I did with him, my question, I said, you'll be leading out, Concord at Wembley, like Sir Alex Ferguson, Pep Guardiola, those kind of names have done. And yet he still seems quite relaxed about it all. How do you think he's feeling, and how big of a moment do you think it is for Scopesy for him to take, the Beachboys out of Wembley?
Oh, well, he's just done an amazing job, hasn't he? Just an unbelievable job. Firstly, just to keep Concord Rangers at Conference South level. We all know what an unbelievable achievement that is. Every time they start the season at that level as a football club, just to stay in that division, you need to pull up, I used to call it pulling up trees, but that is only what you need to do. Just a really good guy, always team first. Just a lovely man with really good man management skills, knows how to get the best out of the players. I think he should be looking forward to Monday. He's got absolutely nothing to lose. The club's got nothing to lose. The challenge couldn't be any bigger, could it? You're playing against now a League Two team that have played game in, game out competitively all season. Concord Rangers' season was obviously curtailed early because of COVID restrictions. So we talked a lot in our time at Concord about climbing the mountain, and this is probably the biggest mountain that they've ever had in front of them. And we're really looking forward to going to the game. Nicky and I are actually doing the game for BT Sport, and we're going to probably be the most biased pundits in the history of football punditry. And definitely, if they win, we're going to get in that dressing room and we're going to sing "You Are My Concord." That's what that absolutely 100%. I know I'll be like John Terry putting on me Concord Rangers kit, but I don't care. That's what we're going to do.
I'm so pleased for Dan though, because honestly, you couldn't have a better person to lead out Concord Rangers at Wembley, because he's so selfless. He puts everyone else first, always, before himself. When I used to play against him, it used to be a nightmare because he was a warrior centre half, and he was always going to kick you and rough you up, and you always felt his real leadership on the pitch when he played. And it was a shame that I only got to play with him really at the back end of his career, because it would have been great to have played with him for longer. And then, joining Concord Rangers, a big reason that I actually came to the club was because of Dan. Because playing against him, we didn't always see eye to eye. But the fact that he picked up the phone to me in the off season and wanted me to come down and join the club, and then I met him, and the way he wanted to do things, and the ideas that he had was a massive attraction at that time. And then to be lucky enough to play for him, but then for Dan to manage with him as well was just great. And we had a brilliant time together. And then for him to come away from Concord for a little bit, and then because he spends a lot of time with his children, who I know play a lot of football as well, but then to come back, you just couldn't have a better person to walk out Concord Rangers at Wembley. And it's just so fitting the way that it's turned out. And I just wish him and everyone at the club all the very best for the game. And we're gonna be supporting the boys as much as we possibly can, and hopefully we can pull off a huge shock.
Finally then, and well, you've kind of already done the kind of definition question that I ask everyone, because you've kind of defined the club so well in the last 20 minutes or so. But if you were going to use 3 words then to describe Concord Rangers, what would they be and why?
I'd ask Dave Chambers to do that.
What would Dave Chambers say?
He'd do it far better than us.
Yeah. 3 words. For me, they would be heart, determination, and resilience. For me, heart, determination, resilience. I just think that's what you have to have if you want to be a Concord Rangers player. I would never sign anyone without those qualities. And actually, any time that I'd signed a player for technical and tactical reasons that didn't have heart, and determination, and resilience, they never actually worked, and it never actually was successful for us. So I think those 3 qualities would be what I would always look for in anybody coming to Concord Rangers. And actually, when we found those qualities in players, then they naturally fitted into the club.
I'd go. I'd say courage, like against the ball in terms of your work ethic, but also courage to take the ball as well, especially in such a big match, playing at Wembley Stadium. Trying to be good, understanding the importance of that. Having that courage both in and out of possession. I would say commitment. playing for Concord Rangers, you literally have to be willing to sacrifice, be selfless, put others before you. That commitment really is part of the culture, to be honest. So that's so, so deeply in the Concord DNA that I know that spills over into the players onto the pitch, and you would never have got to the final of this competition if you didn't have that in abundance. And then, the last one for me would just be underdog, because I think that in the success that we've always had at the football club, we've always been the underdog. We've been known as the team on Canvey Island that can produce massive shocks and upset sometimes bigger clubs and people that thought that they were just going to turn up and go and win the game quite easily. And in the past, we've always managed to prove a few people wrong, and I'm sure that we can do that on Monday.
Perfect. I think underdog is probably the best place to leave it. And as you guys said, for those watching, you can catch Dan and Nick on the most biased English football coverage probably in the history of English football on Monday afternoon on BT Sport. But fellas, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule at Portsmouth for catching up with me, and we'll leave it there.
Thanks, Kian. Lovely to speak to you. See you Monday, mate.
See you Monday.
See ya.